to be honest, this journey has triggered so much of my trauma because when you come as a diasporan to Ghana, it's almost like a forced self-isolation.
Okay.
You've had to give up your entire life, everything that you've known to be true about yourself, everything, your environment, your friends, your community, everything that you were once attached and connected to. And you have to come into a place where it's a strange land. But it's not that very strange because your blood and your bones feel connected. But
Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I go by the name Me, Myself, and I. Epic it was. Remember to like and share to this amazing video. But before I introduce you, I'd like to say a very big thank you. Subscribing, liking, and sharing to this amazing videos that I've been providing to you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. Much love for you guys. Okay. All right. I'm here with
Sister Keisha,
Sister Keisha,
Mama Ajwa,
Mama Ajwa,
Yeah.
and then Auntie.
Auntie Ajwa.
Okay. All the mama and auntie is in there. That is so dope. Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. I call myself Ghanaian by way of Jamaica.
Okay.
I have been living in Ghana for almost a year. I am a mother, a wife, a friend, but I'm also a mental health professional. I operate a mental wellness concierge called Movements for Change. And I help women in particular transform pain, trauma from their past, their childhood,
Okay.
to transform that pain into purpose.
Wow. How is that purpose helping Ghana?
Well, it's helping Ghana because I have been getting out and finding opportunities to speak about self-love.
Okay.
I have been able to address the skin bleaching epidemic that is
epidemic.
happening. What? It's too high. Too high. And at one time, this was something that we thought women were doing, but now men are doing it, which I salute you for keeping your skin.
Thank you.
You know, I think that colonization has left a very bitter taste in all of our mouths, whether we are on the continent or in America, or Jamaica, like the country, where my origin is. It has left us in a state of confusion, of not remembering who we are, and of wanting to not be our own identity.
Okay.
And so this is why we harm each other.
Oh, wow.
This is why we harm each other, because, our melanated skins have been posed as a threat for so long. And that, for a whole campaign to be across the world that's called Black Lives Matter. Why do we have to affirm that Black Lives Matter? Because for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, history has told us that it doesn't. And so Movements for Change and the work that I've done, not only do I talk about healing racial trauma, but I talk about family trauma, because a lot of the abuse that we faced historically, when we get into our families, we've then started to impart the same abuse on each other. So beating, screaming, shaming, embarrassing, putting your child down, insulting, psychological abuse, all these things, it has a long-lasting effect.
Being in Ghana, do you think it's going to be a trauma thing that can affect, this both side of your upbringing?
Oh, wow. That's a deep question. Oh, let me think about what you're saying. Okay, first of all, my own trauma, because in order for me to do this work, that I had to be a survivor, right? And I mean, it's difficult when I come out, no matter how often I tell my story or I share bits and pieces of what I'm recovering from, it's never easy because you almost have to be transparent and, so I always say, I don't say this because I'm trying to expose anyone or talk bad about my family, but we can't heal what we're not willing to reveal. We can't heal what we're not willing to see. We can't heal what we're continuously suppressing. And there's a woman here in Ghana. She has a nonprofit organization, and she reached out to me because she saw another video that I was on, and she said, "I love what you speak about, and I would love for us to collaborate." And she says, I said to her, "What inspired you to do this work?" Because her organization is about mental health, and she says, "I have a friend here in Ghana who committed suicide."
Wow.
I have a friend here in Ghana who committed suicide. You know what that means? That person killed themselves. They died by suicide. So for you to ask how the trauma affected me there and then coming here, what I'm understanding is that just because something hasn't been happening over a period of time doesn't mean that it's not affecting the people. Maybe suicide wasn't prevalent because people are afraid to shame their families. But for this sister to tell me that her friend here in Ghana committed suicide, it means that it doesn't matter where we are, it's still affecting, right? So my personal story is that I'm a child of immigrant parents, and I have what I call a mother wound. So the relationship with my mother was very, 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 very strained, because my mother didn't learn the art of loving herself because of what was passed down and the abuse that she had to survive. So being an only daughter, who do you think she projected a lot of her anger towards herself on?
Yeah.
On me,
Yeah.
right? So I didn't know that it was trauma. I thought that everything that I was experiencing in that relationship with my mother, I thought that it was normal. I thought that's what happens. Sometimes your mother calls you a bitch. Sometimes your mother talks down at you. Sometimes your mother makes you cry and you don't even have an explanation why. I thought all of those things were very, very normal until I became an adult and I started to be in adult relationships. I didn't know how to set boundaries. I didn't know how to say no. I didn't know how to take care of myself. I didn't know how to feel good about myself. And I didn't understand why. I didn't understand why I had all these anxiety. I suffered from panic and anxiety attacks where I felt like I couldn't breathe at times. And I didn't know why until I had an awakening. That's a long story. But I had an awakening back in 2014. And I looked at myself and I said, what has happened in my life? And I started to grieve everything. I started to think about all of my wounds, my abandonment when I was, living with my father, and what I experienced, and when I left, and the abandonment of being taken away from my father and going with my mother. And then I faced some sexual trauma in that time being with my mother by a family member. And, all of these things and I'm thinking, I have a lot to grieve and I have not given myself permission to grieve. So I went on a journey to start healing. And in that path of healing my own life and facing myself, fortunately, I had a master's degree in social work. Wow. Something was always there that made me believe that I had to help people. So I was doing my educational studies and I got a master's degree and I was always working, but it doesn't help if you're trying to help others and you haven't helped yourself. So I went deep into working with myself, and Spirit came to me and said, you don't get to walk away and not go back. Sankofa.
Yeah. Oh, wow. When you said Sankofa right now, how is Ghana for you coming back to the motherland?
Oh, this Sankofa journey, I'm going to be honest, this journey has triggered so much of my trauma because when you come as a diasporan to Ghana, it's almost like a forced self-isolation.
Okay.
You've had to give up your entire life, everything that you've known to be true about yourself, everything, your environment, your friends, your community, everything that you were once attached and connected to. And you have to come into a place where it's a strange land. But it's not that very strange because your blood and your bones feel connected. But physically, from a 3D perspective, right? And when I mean 3D, what we can see,
Yeah, 3D.
It's not familiar. And so I had to sit. I mean, I think my first 3 months here, I cried more than I had ever in a long time.
3 months you are crying.
I cried a lot. I cried a lot because I had to see myself. I had to journal. I had to write down what I was still raw about. What parts of myself was I facing? What have I repressed and buried that I was struggling with seeing? Being away from circumstances that maybe once I used to make excuses, now those circumstances are gone, right? So who am I left with? Myself.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to lie, it has been very, very challenging in that aspect, but challenging in a way where you have to go through your darkness to get to the light. You can't, it has to get bad before it gets good. So I'm thankful for that part of it. But on the other side of that, it has been it's been joyful. I have never slept this peaceful in my entire adult life.
Wow. So you think Ghana has changed you in a
Oh
way?
my gosh, I sleep so good in Ghana because honestly, you just feel like you're home. You feel like you're in a place where, and no matter what has happened, because believe me, we have gone through some challenges.
We will come to that challenges so
Yes,
that we can find a way to, get a solution to it.
I hope. I mean, you think in this conversation we'll find a solution?
I mean, I might not have it, but someone out there could,
May
learn,
have it.
yeah, so that they can learn out of it and then we can better ourselves. That is how we build a nation. We
Yes,
don't build
I should.
nation by just hiding those things within us. But when we share, we get the solution to it.
It's true. I agree. So, despite the challenges, there's something about coming out of your house and walking down the street and everybody saying, Auntie, it's the same, unusual duality. It's like it's good, but it's bad. I don't know. I don't know how to describe what I've been going through because in America, when I woke up, I had a neighbor who never spoke with me. I lived there for 10 years,
Wow.
never exchanged a word. You see where I live in Tema? Hey, if I wake up, if my neighbor doesn't see me for 3 days, hey,
Come and knock.
what, Auntie? It's the same.
Wow.
Where have you been? I when I was driving to come here today, the man who has his ECG, he sells electrical goods in my neighborhood, Daddy. He was walking to his shop, and he says, "Hey, Ajua, where have you been?
Oh.
I haven't seen you. Come and sit with me and chat."
How does that feel?
I get emotional. I love it. I love it. You know what else I love? When somebody sees me, I have my locks, my hair is wrapped, and I'm driving, and I look in the mirror and they're doing this,
Wow.
right? Yes. Those experiences, you don't have that in America. You do not have that in America. Now in Jamaica, yes. Because we in Jamaica, we feel high. I grew up in the Jamaican culture, constantly through our music and our environment, constantly praising Africa, constantly in the Rastafari tradition and in our environment. I mean, you have some Jamaicans who don't believe that they're African and they don't, we have the skin bleaching issue. But for the most part, when you listen to the roots and the culture music, Burning Spear, Garnet Silk, Dennis Brown, Bob Marley, Joseph Hill culture, who he was made a chief here in Ghana. When we listen to those freedom fighters through their music growing up, for me, and my father was a Rastafarian as well, Pan-African. So growing up in the culture and the tradition, we were praising Africa. This was like a dream come true, So repatriation and coming home and Pan-Africanism, that's in my blood. I mean, that's not foreign to me. I've always understood that the vision is to come to Africa. And we always knew that Ghana was the gateway to the motherland because of Kwame Nkrumah. He's the forerunner. He is a great forerunner.
He's the great, 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 great.
Yeah, forerunner. He paved the way for us to say we're going to return and come home to the Black Star.
What does Pan-African means to you?
Okay, so Pan-Africanism, from how I was raised, because like I said, my father, my uncle, my father Aya, my uncle John, they were Pan-Africanists, and they believed in one Africa, and that if we united collectively as melanated people, so we don't say Puerto Rico, we don't say Cuba, we don't say Brazil, we don't say Ghana, we don't say Senegal, we don't say Belize, we don't say, everywhere where melanated people occupy the earth, that we see ourselves as a one united people because they created these race generated names like black, white, Spanish. They created that to separate us, but we are actually the greatest inhabitants on this earth. So if Pan-Africanism says if we united, we can build ourselves economically, spiritually, as a community, as families, we would come together and be on a united front. So what does that look like? So I'm going to materialize it, right? So we have a stronger understanding. I'm here in Ghana. I've been coming to Ghana since 2017, before there was ever a Melcom or a Palace Mall. Okay?
Or Chinese mall.
Or a Chinese mall. Hey, I am here now. I see a Malcolm. Who owns the Malcolm?
Mm-hmm.
The Indians. Okay? I researched. I did my research. You think that one Indian man opened Malcolm?
I don't think so.
He couldn't. There had to be a collective of them, right? If we were operating with true Pan-Africanism, we would have more of a united front economically, where we could create industries and create opportunities for financial sustainability. We should be sustainable, self-sustainable. That means we have our farms, we farm together, we eat together, we have our businesses, we have our industries, we're training each other. I salute Miss Naomi and the Marcus Messiah Garvey Foundation here in Ghana.
Yeah.
What is she doing? She's training the youth to learn skills so that what? They can go back out and be able to take care of themselves. That is true Pan-Africanism.
Saying that, do you think we need charity or we need skills?
We need skills, which we don't. That word need means that we lack it. We have skills. We need to activate our power. Okay, we need to activate. And that's why all of our great leaders who were trying to unite us, whether it was through the dollars, Gaddafi, I'm not going to go too deep into that, yeah. Or it was through politics, Kwame Nkrumah, Stokely Carmichael, right? Patrice Lumumba, right? What do? They try to out them, because can you imagine if we got united, what would happen?
Yeah.
Can you imagine the way this world would be if we weren't behind the scenes trying to clip each other's wings? The minute we see somebody striving, we think that they have something we don't have. We either want to take it or stop them from thriving.